Hi, my name is Chris and I welcome you to another 20-minute draft. Let's get right into it. I opened 3 rares, a Barbed Servitor, which is interesting, and a Tolsimir Midnight Slide, as well as a Surveillant. But the Tolsimir is just the most powerful card in this pack. A very strong rare, 5 mana, 3/2 lifelink, and makes a 5/5 wolf. So then I get past another powerful yet expensive Relieve the Past Celestia rare. So I decide to go with the Sumala Sentry, a 2 mana, 1/3 reach, which can give a +1/+1 counter to disguised creatures if they flip up, and also gain a +1/+1 counter themselves. I'm tempted by the Curse to Kill, but decide to take my medicine now, pick the creature which I can cast with lifelink, makes my Sumala Sentry better, and I'm happy with it. Not going into 5 colors again. A Maverick Topterist gets passed to me, very strong is it card, but I decide to go with the cheap interaction pump spell and get rewarded with a Novice Inspector pretty late. Creatures are very crucial in this format, and as good as the Maverick Thopterist was, I really like with the Curse to Kill pick. I want to stay in Celestia at this time. Get a Museum's Night Watch and a 5 mana flyer, which I won't play, as well as another Night Watch. I like those, and a very late Reckless Detective, but I want to stick with Celestia. The deck looks great at this point. Pick up a Rope and both white cards. Wheel, pick up the creature. I am not very happy with the wall, but it blocks alright. So that's pack 1. In pack 2 I get 3 rares again with another Surveillant, an Ill-Timed Explosion and a Crankle. But the Makeshift Binding is a nice removal spell, so I don't get tempted by the Crankle, but then get past another one. But again, choose the removal spell over any shenanigans and stay in Celestia. The Charm is very strong, but at this point I look like a very white deck and pick the Tunnel Tipster over it. Sample Collector makes me more green, is another good blocker and can really work in the late game as well if a bunch of creatures have died. Pick up another 2-drop and a Gardener, as well as another powerful 5 mana card, not as powerful as the Tolsimir of course. But the deck is shaping up. I pick up another possible mana card and another combat trick. So I could definitely splash, but with the Surveillant I find another use for the Gardener really. So the first pick wasn't great with the Surveillant, but I'm happy enough. And the colors seemed open. I get another removal spell over the case of the Trampled Garden, and then a Vine Creeper next. So I have a bunch of strong creatures at this point. Pick up another very powerful Crowd Control Warden and a Riftburst Hellion, so a bunch of expensive disguise cards. So I'm happy to have the Tunnel Tipster, and with another Museum Night Watch, I'm also happy to have the Sumala Sentry to make them even better. Because of all these expensive cards, I picked the second Tunnel Tipster over the Makeshift Binding, pick up another Rope, and then another Morph creature, which isn't bad. So that's pretty much a deck. I did make some mistakes. The font was still somewhat young. I did cut the On the Job. I'm not sure it would have been the greatest cut in this particular deck anyways. But yeah, definitely powerful. Let's get into round 1. Game 1. I keep a hand with both my colors of mana, a Sentry and 2 disguised creatures. Good hand. And I play the Sentry in turn 2. They follow it up with their own 1/3, which can fix mana. And I play my first disguised creature. I'm happy to trade a Night Watch with the Goblin next turn to get a 2/2 out of the deal in the first +1/+1 counter from a Sentry. They are happy to get a Clue token in this case. Can also play the Wall on the same turn. Then choose to play their first removal spell right away for my Night Watch to get rid of some of the pressure. And I'm lucky to draw a cheap disguise creature. Get my Surveillant, which is pretty much the only useful land at this point. And they play a 5/5, which can block most of my creatures, so I decide to tap it down for a turn with my Wall and keep on the pressure. They decide to jump block, at least I think they do at this point, but after I play my second disguise creature they show the shock and at least get rid of the gardener. A Killer Among Us gives them a couple of jump blockers, but they really need more than a couple of jump blockers, because they don't block. I flip my Warden and they go to only 1 life. They have a nice removal spell next turn, after I get rid of my top card. For my crowd control Warden, attack with the 7/5 now suspected creature. I think they should have attacked with their killer, but they don't know I have the trample spell next turn, and at this point they're dead. Game 2, I have another good opening hand with the Novice Inspector and a couple of 3-mana disguise creatures. Play the Inspector and they tapped land. Well, I just keep mana open to crack my clue. They use the Deduce to find the 3rd land but sadly miss. While I use the mana to crack the clue and play my first Nightwatch disguised. I do find the 3rd land 1 turn late and get rid of the planes of mine, which I'm not sad about. I can get in and play another Nightwatch, this time face up. Play a Gadget Technician, making a 1/1 flyer, but I forced him to block with it right away with my 3/2, but they're happy to trade it, and I'm also happy to get a 2/2 out of the deal. Maybe they weren't happy, they really had no choice. They tapped down my 4/5, getting rid of some of the pressure, trade for my 2/2 and take another 3 damage, while I play a big fat 6/7 which I can flip up next turn. They have a Cold Case Cracker, which I trade for my 3/2, get in for 6 though, and while I get another creature, they only get a clue. They don't really have time to crack clues at this point. A pull saves them from the 6/7 at least, but my removal spell allows me to play it on for 2 mana, get in for 5, and also play a 3rd creature. So they see no out and concede. Game 3, I see a Tolsimir and a Sentry in my hand, so I'm already happy. I decide to go with the Tunnel Tipster first, so I can play my disguised creature first, but they get rid of it right away. I think it was a good choice. Next turn I maybe can flip up the Nightwatch, but I don't draw the land. I just crack a clue, so I play a Gardener instead of flipping it up and playing the Sentry beforehand. I have the Strong Enchantment, which allows you to play lands and creatures from the top of your deck if it gets solved, but I put on the pressure by playing the Sentry and unmorphing my Nightwatch. I get rid of the Nightwatch, but leaves behind the 2/2, and also get rid of my other morphed creature. It's only the Gardener. So now I find the 5th land for my Tolsimir, and they are in quite a precarious situation. They find a 4/2 blocker and a 2/3 blocker as well, but concede after playing those 2. Game 4, see a Tunnel Tipster, Tolsimir, Combat Trick and Nightwatch, so a good hand. Play the Tunnel Tipster on turn 2, ready to get my first +1/+1 counter next turn, dropping a Vampire instead of the Nightwatch instead though. They just played the Vacuum on turn 2, but followed up with a Cryptic Code on turn 3, which is a very scary rare, one of the best. I however have the Tolsimir already on turn 4 and can really just beat down. If I project the Inspector next turn and I decide to Alpha Strike, forcing the 3/2 to block my 5/5, hoping to use my Combat Trick and keep my Vanya Wolf token. They trade for the Tolsimir themselves, but the Wolf stays alive. I deal quite a bit of damage to them, and they can play another disguised creature, pumping my Tunnel Tipster. They play a disguised creature themselves, and block as well as flip it up after I flip up my creature, getting rid of the 5/5 token. Pretty strong play, but they're already on only 5 life after all my attacks. A Deduce doesn't really help them, I play a Spying Eye and concede. Game 5, I keep another great opening hand with both my mana, the Sentry, a Sample Collector and some removal spells. They're nice, say hello, I drop my Sentry and draw my Tolsimir right away, which I'm happy about. After playing the Sample Collector, turn 3, they just bounce it, surveil and keep their card on top. Drop a Disguised Creature, I replay the Sample Collector and drop a Rope. And they show me they have a Granite Witness. Tap my blocker, not that I was gonna jump block at this point. I return the favor, play another Disguised Creature, my first one actually, and they do 2 again. They show it's another Granite Witness, and I keep my Sentry back to block their 3/2 creatures, get in for 5 damage, and remove one of them, just to buy me some more time. I play a removal spell for the Sentry, so I'm happy to have used the Makeshift Binding. I use another removal spell for the Sentry and get in for quite a bit of damage. Because I want to keep the Tolsimir as long as I can, in case they have more removal. Equip the Rope, the jump block, go to 1, just drop the roll, and they don't have anything anymore and concede the game. So I'm 5-0. Game 6, my starting hand looks a lot worse than before. I keep it anyways, I have a removal spell, a creature. It's for interaction. I draw another land while they drop the first creature. You really see in this game how 2-drops can be very important. I play Cryptic Code, so I'm under a lot of pressure at this point because it's unblockable. The Disguised permanent under the Cryptic Code. Drop my Vampire in case I'm able to get some life from it. Use the Makeshift Binding to get rid of one of the creatures at least. Gain back some life. But after I drop another Disguised creature and then counter my Warden, I'm definitely done. I drop a Case Cold Cracker while I just crack a clue and see I have nothing left to do but concede. Game 7, my starting hand looks quite a bit worse, but I keep it. I have a Rope, can sack it if I need to, and a couple of creatures. They play the Tunnel Tipster and I surveil a Forest into my graveyard, where they use their turn 3 to not only play 1 Evidence Examiner, but 2. I can only drop my Night Watch. They attack and I let it through. I want to trade when I can flip it up to get the 2/2 token. Play a Disguised creature and pump up the Tunnel Tipster while I keep up my mana. And they have a Vannifar Evolved Enigma. It cloaks cards from their hand or can buff colorless creatures. In this case also buffing the Tunnel Tipster end of turn, while I can only flip up my Nightwatch. I do use the Makeshift Binding to get rid of the Vannifar, but it has already done some damage. But at this point I'm happy to trade my Nightwatch for one of the creatures. They use an Alibi, while I use a combat spell of my own to still trade and still get my 2/2. I'm still under quite a bit of pressure. I use the Creeper and the Rope to make a good blocker. They use the Desist side of Cease and Desist to get rid of my Makeshift Binding, the Rope. Pretty sad. Get back the Vannifar and collect a bunch of evidence with the Examiners triggering twice. But at least I did draw another Makeshift Binding, getting rid of the Vannifar again. And also dropping the Vampire. They, however, draw a removal spell for my Vampire. So I can't gain 5 life by flipping it up with my Creeper later. And I did forget they have the Tunnel Tipster, use it on my turn. Draw Eidetic Memory, or Prophet's Eidetic Memory, to really use the card draw of the clues and pump up their creatures. Try to eat their morph creature, but they actually trade both my Creeper and the 2/2. At least next turn I can drop the Sample Collector and another Nightwatch. But with the Eidetic Memory, they really pressuring me. They have Out Cold, draw some more cards, pump up all their little creatures, and get even more clues. And I just draw a Forest and no, I'm dead. Game 8, I'm 5-2 at this point. I need to win this to keep the dream alive. Drop a Novice Inspector and a 2-drop while I can play the Tunnel Tipster, the Boros, and go full on aggressive with the diligence and putting me already on 13. I pump my Talon Tipster by playing a disguised creature, and they only attack with their 3/4, dropping a person of interest in the next main phase. I also play a Red Herring and attack with all the creatures, but I at least can block with the Talon Tipster and unmorphing my 4/5, eating their 3/4 Inspector. Going to only 3 life, but the Makeshift Binding gives me 2 more life points, and they play a 5/5. I do need to get rid of that, so I can still block, and a wall actually stabilizes me quite a bit. The Vampire and the Creeper face down help me to next turn hopefully gain more life, and a Novice Inspector a turn later gets me some cards back. I play the 4/4 Giant and the Disguised Creature while I crack the clue, finding another Plains, and am again able to flip up my Savior. I did have a Dog Walker. I flip up the Creeper and fight a Crowd Control Warden, which is massive at this point because of the stalemate. Play some more creatures. I unmorph the Crowd Warden and play the Death Touch Disguised Creature, which can give Indestructible. Attack with the Crowd Warden and the Vampire in hopes of gaining a bunch of life, and after they jump only with the dog token, I'm back at 16 again. So I feel great at this point. I have another Dog Walker, but their 1/1 tokens don't really interest me. They have a combat spell to eat my Novice Inspector, but the walls still block their Dog Walker. I didn't trade anything else off. And with a case they can get rid of my Vampire, but they still need a plan for my giant creatures. Just jump with a dog, which is fine, but yeah, I'm happy with it if it keeps eating a couple of the creatures. Drop a Night Watch, they Red Herring and block it, and they sack it. Of course they didn't have anything. And the Novice Inspector gives them another clue. I start attacking with more than one creature because of a combat trick, but they only take 5 and get rid of another one of their dogs. They use their case to exile 3 cards, finding a couple of good ones, but decide after I tap their giant to make 3 1/1 flyers. Good choice. They also get rid of 2 lands at the same time. Find a Gardener and attack again with my Creeper and my 9/9, and when they try to defeat the Gardener, I use a combat spell to maybe keep it alive, but I have a Galvanize and we trade. It's still kind of a 3/4/2. The Talon Tipster then grows because I did play Disguised Creature. They attack in the air, but they still need some kind of plan to block my giant Warden. Removal kills my Gardener, which is not a big deal, and with the Trample spell I know I can attack with all. Make a couple of blocks, but my 9/9 turns into 12/12. The Death Touch turns face up, and the damage kills them. So I'm 6-2. Game 9 will be the last game, no matter if I win or lose. They crack a land to find a swamp while I drop the rope into Talon Tipster, and they use a removal spell to get rid of it right away, playing the Disguised Creature on their turn, and I do the same. I don't want to block because I want to use my 4 mana next turn. Play another Disguised Creature after flipping the Gardener, and unflip their Flourishing Bloomkin, making it a 3/3, and I'm happy I can trade with my Night Watch, getting a 2/2. Another Disguised Creature later and the Sample Collector, my Talon Tipster starts growing. But with a Murder, they get rid of the Sample Collector right away, and another removal spell removes my Disguised Creature. Get in for 4, putting me down to 12, but I have a Crowd Control Warden, and the rope allows me to get in for some damage myself, growing my Talon Tipster in the process. I have a rope but stay back this turn, and my Crowd Control Warden is big enough to eat their Gardener just like that. I didn't expect something this big, but a pull next turn still kills my big creature. They do drop a Crawl Whipcracker, which is pretty perfect, killing my Detective token, quite a bit stronger than killing a clue token. But I draw somewhat strong Disguise Creature myself at least, and get in for the 4 damage with my Talent Tipster. Play a Tolsimir Midnight Slide themselves, getting their giant wolf token, but make a bit of a mistake perhaps next turn by attacking and forcing my Talent Tipster to block the wolf. I can just tap it and unmorph my 3/3 Death Touch, which is now indestructible. I decide to not trade for the wolf, but rather get rid of the Tolsimir and hopefully block the X-Bane Ferox, which I also played next turn. I sack my robe after I play another Disguise Creature and find a Tolsimir myself, so I'm still hopeful I can survive this, upon being very impressed. I drop the Savior and the Tolsimir and stay back, of course, growing my Talent Tipster by playing the Vampire. I have another Gardener, sack their rope, which is a mistake, but find a case and attack with both. I double block with the Tolsimir to gain 3 life. Hope they destroy the Talent Tipster, and my 3/3 Death Toucher still trades with the X-Bane Ferox. I do kill the Tolsimir, but next turn I find the perfect removal spell, unflipping my Lifelinker Savior, and they see what's happening and concede. So the game is finished. I did win. The game goes 7-2. Very happy with this. I hope you enjoyed the games as well.